Chris today. Chris has been making toys, games. Games is probably a better word. Chris lives over here on the river. We've kayaked from his spot down there before, along the St. George. Awful nice guy. I go to church with him, and can't be beat. You know, some folks just can't be beat. Oh, look out here. These are all games too. I'll need him to explain them to me because I don't know that much about how they work, but I'm sure he'll tell us. Oh, the joy.
The first one over here was just made with birch sticks. So I'm going to make Andy something a little more special. So I carved out a moon out of burl and put the post out, holding it out. It's all put together, but it's kind of a version of I'll lasso the moon for you. So when you swing it, and I had so much fun doing that one. I thought, well, I'm just going to start making some and see what I can do. And over here, these are the type that I started doing initially, which were kind of themed based on the clutter that I had in my wood shop, primarily things that I thought could be interesting to somebody if they had a boating background or a golf background or baseball. Trying to come up with some ideas.
How do they work?
Well, it's a pretty simple technology, and we'll see if I can even hit it. The key is to get just a little arc to it, so it.
Oh, look at that!
How about that?
You've done that before.
And each of them swings a little different.
Yeah.
This one a little shorter boom. A little shorter line, but it's the same process. Put a little smaller.
Look at you.
How about that?
You got skills.
It's good to have talent.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
So are these for you, or are these going to the poor
these
farm?
I'm actually. It has evolved into a passion of sorts, I guess, and any great passion you want to share with people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to figure out how to do a show of the pieces, and we'll go over and look at what I'm calling my plain folk.
Okay.
That's what the show is really going to be more about. But they'll all be available, and I'm just some.
So when you say available, someone could buy something
buy
from
these,
you if they chose to. A few of these just need a little closer inspection.
Sure.
So that people can see the details.
This one with the tiller, somebody started laughing at me and said, "You got your tiller handle on backwards." I told them, "No." I said, "There's a story there." I said, "I was sailing a little pram down in Mobile Bay, and day was just a nice easy breeze. I had the sail just swung out, and I'm hanging a foot over the edge and cruising along. Not really. I cleated off the sheet, which kind of turned out to be a mistake when I look back on it. But had that foot dragging in the water and feeling nice, and just not really plenty of open water in front of me. Not worried about where I was going." Just relaxing, enjoying the sunshine and the breeze. And all of a sudden heard a bump on the bow, and my foot grabbed and it rolled me, flipped me over the back of the boat. I had hold of that tiller handle, and that's the only thing that kept me attached to the boat. It just flipped it backwards. I'm hanging on to the back of the back behind the boat, dragging along in the water. I've got something on my leg that is holding me back. I'm reaching. I can't hardly reach with a cup of coffee here, but still had hold of the tiller handle. Finally got hold of the stern, pulled myself up just a little bit, looked back, and I saw the line and the float off a crab trap down in Mobile Bay. You've got blue crabs instead of lobsters. It's dragging along and pulling my leg. Well, sort of like I'm pulling your leg.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad it was it was an imaginary crab trap instead of an imaginary shark or alligator or various and sundry different things. So tell me the story of the baseball glove and the baseball bat.
There's not a
Story.
strong story. It's just themed.
Yeah.
I figured there might be a Red Sox fan around here someplace.
Yeah. So this looks like art over here on the porch.
I'm wanting to believe that.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my dilemmas has been whether to make them games or try to actually keep them just as sculpture.
Right.
But it's fun, and there's not a thing wrong with art being fun too.
Not a thing wrong with that. And yeah, they could be both.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of, and most of these folks have a story behind them.
I'm gonna try to angle away from the wind because I know from experience that the wind will sometimes pick right up.
Okay.
So you just go right ahead.
Well, each of them, when I start, that's something like what I'm dealing with.
All right.
Just an old block plane. But when I look at that, I said, that's just, he's looking at me. He just needs a set of eyes, and he's really be looking at me. He's got his tongue stuck out. And so I started thinking, what could I add? The croquet mallet's what I first started with, and the Starbit screws gave kind of a nice pupil to the eye. I wanted to, again, still integrating the idea of it being a game. I needed the boom on it, and some of them, the mallet worked real well. Others, this one in particular, it was another plane, more of a fancy trim plane, but it had two knobs on it that made a great set of eyes. This one in particular, I call him Mervin. It was I have a good friend, old man here in the area, he is probably the best trout fisherman I know. He's taken me and out catch me 3 to 1. And he has taken folks fishing all his life, I guess, but he's not just a fisherman, he's a fisher of men. He loves the Lord, and he uses his fishing trips as a chance to introduce folks if they haven't developed a personal relationship yet. So Mervin, I gave him a heart for Jesus also.
Yeah.
That was kind of where he was coming from. Even the trout is another plane. Come around to this side, there's a little more detail there. It's fun.
That is so cute. And so imaginative. I've never seen anybody do this.
Every time I have a great idea, I Google it and then find
Somebody's
out
doing it,
that 15 people are already doing it.
Exactly.
And so far, I haven't seen anybody else that's doing this. This one, she was born plain, but Fancy was her name, and I said, well, Fancy, you gotta be part of the collection.
Needs a Carmen Miranda hat.
There you go. And everybody agreed. Among her other assets, she had a great pair.
I see that. Now, did you carve the pair and the?
I did not. That's one of the things that.
I think we had this conversation about you not being a carver. You're more of a.
I enjoy carving, but for these, I'm really enjoying the process of going and
finding things, making them work.
Go yard sailing, and with the idea not of bringing back things that I need to use in my daily life, but that I can use in these sculptural pieces.
So many of these old woodworking tools like that in this area are quite abundant because there was such a shipbuilding area at one time, but they've all been replaced by machinery, and probably nobody uses them anymore.
Well, a lot of the planes, if they're in any condition at all, people clean them up, and they bring a surprisingly high dollar. When I go looking for planes, first thing I say, have you got any unloved lot planes?
Yeah.
I said, the less you like it, the more I probably would. And each one has different possibilities. This, that could have been an eye that way, but turning him this way, and he's still filthy. I liked that, but I thought, that fella, if I worked with him, he could be maybe a little different. I've always had an affinity for the Cyclops, and so if you take him and you give him
I see where you're going with
there
that.
you go. Now, he is definitely from away.
Yeah, he's like an alien, Cyclops or something.
So
Cyclops with horns, or I like that.
He was fun. This one, old Gus he was cut out of rougher stock, but he's a good fella. He's just easy going. This was Jake, and when Jake came to town, most everybody agreed that he was from away. He was just a little too smooth for everybody to be comfortable. And this is the loving couple. When I first saw the pair, they weren't together, and I was talking. This is old Jake, Texan, got the big 10-gallon hat.
Okay.
It's this hat is a foot wide, foot of the plane, and half a foot tall.
Okay.
And a lot of people, cattlemen, they'll say, well, he's all hat and not so many cows. But Jake, he had an eye for picking out good stock. He definitely had an eye for it. The one thing he didn't have was a wife. He had all his life, he hadn't just been lonely, but he just never found a woman that he could see eye to eye with. And one day he was at church Sunday morning, and there was this little senora from Italy who'd moved to town, and he was awestruck. He says, if she'll have me, I'm gonna marry her. And he just decided right then, he shouted out, he says, Senora, will you marry me? And she turned on her heel, because at first she thought, now, who would be so bold? But when she saw him looking at her, she just saw something that made her think they could be a pair. And so they were standing there at the back of the church. She walked towards him. They looked up. The preacher was still there. He says, I can see it in your eyes. You two want to make this happen right now. Jake said, yes, we do. And he says, well, Jake, would you have her? Actually, he asked her first. Preacher says, Senora, would you have him to be your husband? She says, I would. He says, Jake, would you take her to be the last woman you'll ever be with? He says, she is going to be my last woman. So there's the story of Jake and the last senora.
There you go. And now she's by his side.
Yes, she is. This old girl, they just called her Plain Jane. She was a bit homely, but she met old Knob, and Plain Jane and Knob just made a great couple. They loved each other, and she thought that he just hung the moon. He was such a handsome man. Well, it wasn't too long, and there was a little baby on the way.
Aww.
And when Plain Jane was anticipating this child coming into the world, she worried because she knew, she felt that she was just a homely looking Plain Jane. She thought, if that baby could just be handsome like her father, like his father. And so the day came and the baby was born, and Plain Jane was just overjoyed because he was just as handsome as his father.
That's so cute.
So whether that'll be a sculpture or a game or a combination of both, it's hard to say at this point.
Uh-huh.
You know, you can share a mask. That's sort of what I've got. This was one that it's got a long swing to it. Coffee, because it might clip it. And we'll see if I got to kind of get back on this one. You got to sneak up on it.
Dutchie's gonna get that one. Ho ho ho! Sweet.
It's a simple game. It's fun, and I'm having a blast with it because I'm able to I can go out and search for all kinds of fun stuff and use a little bit of woodworking skill here and there.
Yeah.
But mostly just use my enjoyment of working up a story, telling a story.
Uh-huh.
I write a lot better than I talk, so I have to. My expectation is to have a story that goes with each of the plain folk, and we'll see where it goes from there. So the hook and ring used to be called bull and ring, and in the old English pubs all over, I guess, they'd have a bull's nose ring on a string and a hook on the wall. Picture the bull there, and same way the game works, but so this hook and ring game has been being played for hundreds of years, but we're revitalizing it a little bit and having a little more fun with it.
There you go. People forgot all about it, and you're
Yep.
bringing it back.
We'll see.
Just like these old tools.
That's right. Thank you, Richard.
It was a pleasure, buddy.
It's been
You
great.
take care.
Take care.